Hi, and welcome to the Keys to Therapy. Today's episode, we have a special guest. We have Courtney Kramer here. Hi, Courtney.
Hello.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, so good to see you. I'm so excited to be here and talk everything about somatic therapy and
Uh,
just hang out.
yeah, and this episode was a special request from somebody who messaged me and was like, I want to know more about this type of therapy. So here we go, and here you are. So thank you for taking the time out to do
Of
this
course.
today.
Of course. So excited.
Well, do you want to tell the audience a little bit about like who you are and what you do?
Yes, sure. So yeah, a little bit about me. I am currently living in Arizona. I just moved here in September from Virginia, so I'm able to kind of practice in both Arizona and Virginia, which has been a wild ride with the two different time zones.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's been a lot, but it's been really fun. And so I've been able to do both because I can work virtually, which is so
Nice.
nice. And I know you know that feeling.
Yeah.
I need to get a background like yours. That's my next goal, which is just to like zhuzh it up a little bit.
Yeah, but the plants are
Um,
working, so
yes,
like
yes, thank
it.
you. So I work primarily with adults who love to be in their brain, who are really intellectual and self-aware and feel like maybe they kind of know everything, but still things aren't really aligning or feeling super satisfaction in their life
Hmm.
and are a little bit wanting to kind of figure out who they want to be and what direction they want to go in with their life and want to break free from maybe some patterns around perfectionism and people pleasing and basically want to take it the next step past being intellectual and just thinking about their feelings. They actually want to embody what their feelings are and what their values are. And most of the time, my clients are a little neurospicy, which is my go-to because I have ADHD and tend
Mhm.
to spend half of my sessions rambling and fidgeting. So it's always great to have somebody on the other side who understands that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that and right now I'm kind of just in this place of rebranding and expanding my messaging to be a little bit more bold, which and really using a lot more of my voice, which is also something that I really like doing with my
Mhm.
clients. People who tend to be maybe not so much like quiet and shy, but just like chill and low maintenance.
Yeah.
And then they come in and I'm like, let's be bold. Let's figure out who you are and what you want to say and how you want to show up in the world.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, that's been really exciting, and I feel like that kind of encompasses what I do and who I work with.
yeah. Oh, I love that though, especially because if you have a lot of clients who are very intellectual, they
Mhm.
probably have to be in that space a lot of the time. I'm sure their jobs are like that, or certain people rely on them to be like that. So for them to come with you and just sort of be like, who are you? Not like, what do you do, but like, just who are you? That's probably a big relief for them.
100%. Yeah, like kind of stepping away from those roles, the caretaking
Hmm.
roles, the high functioning, high performing roles, and kind of breaking apart some of those masks and being like, yeah, what's underneath that? And
Yeah.
if it's just this unknown territory, it's really cool to go in and explore or even just build and create. I love that.
Oh, it's so nice. And that's like a part of
Yeah.
therapy that I feel like nobody talks about in grad school. Like how much you're
No,
helping somebody like become them. I know it's a lot of like symptom management and stuff I feel like we're all talked about or talked to about or whatever,
100%.
but I feel like there's so much of like identity development and just even sometimes helping people figure out what their hobbies are. Like what do they like to do?
Which is so wild sometimes where, yeah, I feel like I'm on in a session and that's the question. It's like, it's almost so like devastating when
Mhm.
someone's really sitting there and they're like, okay, well, if I don't focus on everybody else and I focus on myself, I don't even have that answer of what I want to do. And just even
Yeah.
processing those feelings, right, of shock and confusion and grief that they don't have an answer.
Mhm.
Yeah, they don't teach you that in grad school. They're like, yeah, just help them, deep breathe and be
Right.
calm. And I'm like, that's so boring. And that's what they've been doing their whole life is like
Right.
breathing to the point where they're not breathing anymore. They're just
Yeah.
existing.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so true. Yeah. And that's a big reason why I was excited for you to come on too about talking about somatic experiencing and somatic therapy in general, because I feel like none of that was addressed in my program. So I'm going to have a lot of personal questions I want to know about it when we talk
Totally.
all about it. But then I guess the other like intro question I have is what made you decide to become a therapist? I love hearing about people's journeys and how they even got here.
Totally. It's so funny because when anybody asks me that question, like it always stumps me because originally I didn't want to be a therapist. I
Mhm.
actually went to college for film and video studies.
Oh,
I wanted to edit film and do casting.
I love it.
Yeah, I just liked the creative piece of it.
Yeah.
And but after my first semester, it's kind of fun now to be where I'm at in my life and be able to sort of understand looking back what was going on. I remember the first day of my second semester, the class that I was taking was like, okay, you're going to have to basically create, edit, and star in a short film.
Oh, wow.
I remember leaving that class being like, I'm out. I'm not doing I'm not doing that. And instantly, like literally that day, dropped my major and
Wow.
went into psychology. And now kind of through my own healing and doing my own therapy, I realized how afraid I was to be seen and to put out a very like vulnerable project.
Mhm.
Not only star in it, but then edit it and really have this thing that I was going to show the world about myself. And so I actually feel like I kind of went into therapy because that was a little bit safer for me. I was able
Mhm.
to sort of be
On the other
in the
side.
background. Yeah, on the
Uh-huh.
other side. I'm like, oh, this is all about other people and the client. And like
Yeah.
I can create distance from my own vulnerability. And
Right.
um, so now, that I kind of know myself better, I really love being a therapist because part of it now is that I get to, with this rebranding, right, I get to sort of show more of my authentic self and my vulnerable self
Yeah.
and help clients do the same thing who are maybe like choosing safe bets because they get to hide behind the screen versus,
Hmm.
showing the world who they really are. So I fell into being a therapist, but
Yeah.
now, I embody it and really love it, which sometimes I think is a little different. I think a lot of people either inherently know that they've gravitated towards being a therapist or being the helper. And for me, it was
Hmm.
like, this feels safer.
Right. It is a little necessary.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
yeah, but it also makes sense if you're interested in casting because it's all about people, personalities, and all of that. So it was already sort of there. It just wasn't channeled in the right
100%.
space yet.
Yes, yes. I've always known that I really love understanding people and
Yeah.
reading people and figuring out kind of like the path that I'm like, ooh, yeah, you'd be great in this type of film or something like that. But
Hmm.
now I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll use that power in a different way.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. So, on your journey to being a therapist, what was it that drew you to somatic therapy? And also, I guess before we get to that, like, can you explain what that is?
Totally. Yeah, so before what drew me to it, so it is a body-based therapy approach. The man who created it is Peter Levine. Highly recommend reading some of his books.
Mm,
Um, and so basically what it is sort of a gentle approach to stepping outside of our intellect, like the way we like talk about our traumas, and more so going into gently noticing the way trauma has been stored in our nervous system.
mm,
So a lot of the times we don't realize we think trauma is the thing that happened to us, but really trauma can be what's stuck in us based off of that event, like how we maybe responded to it and what has gotten stuck.
mm,
So somatic therapy actually helps you track and understand the feelings in your body and see if there's any stuck energy, stuck like fight, flight, or freeze or fawn response in the body, and
hmm.
helps you basically complete that response that you never got to. So
Mm,
you can sort of recover from it and then
mhm.
kind of move on with your life. So if you think about if you have a dog, this is really, you can really see it. It's really obvious.
Yeah.
But if you're walking your dog and they maybe see another dog or see something that, or even a loud truck or something that kind of triggers a little bit of a fight or flight startle response,
Mhm.
but then they shake it off right after, right?
Yeah. Then they want to treat
That is
you. They're just like
exactly.
living their
They're
best
like,
life.
cool, now we can
Uh-huh.
keep walking.
Yeah.
And so that is literally them doing a very primal, natural way of
Wow.
going through the threat response, right? So I'm
Yeah.
like seeing this thing that's scary, locking eyes on it, and then once I realize that it's not actually going to hurt me, I can shake it off. But with
Mhm.
humans, what happens is the brain, society, the personality sometimes stops us from engaging in the finishing, not shaking it off of
Ah, okay.
the threat response, or just
Mhm.
maybe we literally can't because something in this traumatic experience is stopping us from being able to allow our body to do what it really wants to do in that
Mhm.
moment. And so then it gets stuck. So because we weren't able to finish the threat response, it gets stuck. And then we have behaviors that sort of reinforce that, trying to get that stuck response to be alleviated. So
Makes sense.
yeah, that is a very like surface level explanation of somatic therapy. I don't
Yeah.
know if you have any thoughts or questions, or if you want me to go into what drew me to it.
Yeah, it's just so different than a lot of the modalities that at least I was taught or that like trainings that were put in front of me. So, like I think to like when I worked with the military, we did prolonged exposure. So it was like make
Mm,
a checklist of all of the things
mm,
that stress you out and then start doing each one from the bottom up. Or like cognitive processing therapy, which would be like write your story 100 times. And like a
mm,
lot of
mm.
people do like trauma timelines or like different things like that, which still sort of keeps people up here. Like they may be talking about the things that they're feeling, but they're not necessarily working through it any other way but talking. And I guess whatever
Yeah,
coping skills or something you talk to them about, but I feel like a lot of the almost like new wave of therapy, like EMDR or brain spotting, and it sounds like this too,
yeah,
are things that really make you focus on like where do you feel that?
yeah,
Like, and it's so much more about feeling, not thinking. So that's awesome.
yeah. Yeah, there was this study that I think really like solidified this for me,
Mhm.
which talks about how the ways in which we understand like emotions and the way we receive emotions is not like over 90% of it is through tone and body language, and
Mm,
only like 7% is actual verbal communication.
wow.
And so it's like when you're in those more cognitive therapies, that you're so right, like that we're taught, CBT or even
Yeah.
DBT and all of these things that are very think about how you're feeling, or think first, right? And edit
Hmm.
that thought process. That's only 7% of the way we understand ourselves and understand other people.
It's
And so
crazy.
we're missing that like 90% or more than 90% of accessibility to really understand not only other people but like ourselves. And
Yeah.
so that disconnect can really make us blind to what's going on. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's very different. And I think sometimes what I'm kind of noticing is a lot of sessions are almost in silence. And so you feel like you're like, what? I don't know what's happening. It almost feels like this like magical like experience that did I
Mhm.
really do anything? And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
clients are coming back being like, all of a sudden I had the motivation to do this thing that I've never had the motivation to do. And like I don't understand why. And
Hmm.
it's like, well, we cleared that stuck energy, right? And
Yeah.
created more openness and capacity to do things now.
Mhm.
So it's been really transformational.
Oh, that makes so much sense because I think like a lot of those like more cerebral type therapies sort of make people continue to think about it, but again, not necessarily feel it. So they are maybe are spending so much time trying to like talk themselves out of the feelings or minimize them or whatever else that they're really never getting rid of the blockages. That's probably why so many people
100%.
say like, I've tried therapy and it didn't work because it wasn't the right
Yep.
time for them.
Yes. 100%. And that's as somebody who is a chronic overthinker and intellectualizer who loves making meanings of things.
Mhm.
That's kind of why I was drawn to it,
Yeah.
because I felt like, oh, I if I know this coping strategy, then like why isn't it working? Like if I know that this is, oh, this person's just having a bad day and that's why they said this mean thing, why do I not feel better? I'm still hurt.
Yeah.
And so I was really drawn to this idea of like I'm exhausted after sessions, because beforehand it was just so much thinking, and I felt
Hmm.
like so it was so difficult to kind of see change and progress in my clients, because the both of us were just sort of like, okay, yeah, like now that we understand, things can just be
Right.
different, right? And it was like, nope, things are still the same. And so I was like, okay, something, I need something more. Like I'm
Mm.
the understanding is that's helpful, right? That's still 7%. That's still this thing that's necessary, is to be able to understand why somebody would do it
Yeah.
or change our mindset.
Hmm.
But now that we can really drop into this like 90% and do this kind of bottom up approach. Yeah, it's just such a difference. It's not just thinking about something, it's really feeling our way through
Hmm.
change. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Oh, that is. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
really awkward for clients at times too to like understand, like feel that out, because I mean they spend all this time avoiding it. It's just like sometimes when they're talking about it, they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about the details. So to have them feel it, but I like that you said so much of it can be quiet because it's like let their body do what it was supposed to do in the first place, but something interrupted it.
100%. It's really cool because a lot of like, you know, again with the ADHD, I could yap all day and like go down a path of curiosity and
Yeah.
understanding. And my clients are pretty similar.
Uh-huh.
So it's cool. And one thing I really like about somatic experiencing is that there's the idea of sort of like orienting, which is a fancy word for kind of like just look around your space and be where you are. And then there's like titration and pendulation. So the pendulation is really, we start with finding something that actually feels good in the
Hmm.
body. So kind of going to this resource first, right? Because if we've kind of been disconnected to our bodies for so long, we don't want to jump into the scariest parts
No,
of
you'll never see that
feeling.
client again.
It's 100%. Yeah. And I want my people to be here. So
Right.
it's really, but it's so fascinating. So I kind of, what happens is we just invite your eyes to orient the room and wander until you find something that you really enjoy. And then when you find that thing, right, it's like that, let's start there. Let's really feel what it is like in your body to enjoy, to be in a place of pleasure and desire and likability. And it's so funny because a lot of my clients that are so used to the intellect, they're like, I'm not going to know how to describe what's going on in my
No,
body. And then the moment that I invite them to do it, it's
right.
just this, oh yeah, I feel really light and I feel really open. And they just instantly come up with this like content. And then
Wow.
so it's, yeah, it's cool to sort of see how the doubt
Yeah.
that they can do it like just floats away. And they're like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm feeling my body. I'm noticing things. I'm experiencing openness. And so that is, I think that is the really cool part for anybody who maybe is a little bit nervous about somatic therapy. It's like part of it is actually like encouraging you and helping you feel better and feel joy, which I think a lot of people who have experienced trauma don't often
Yeah.
have access to or feel like they can go to a place of joy or if it's not really natural.
Hmm.
So I love that part of somatic experiencing is that gentle starting with a thing that feels good and then it naturally our bodies naturally pendulate to this thing that doesn't feel so good, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you might then start to feel like a longing or a missing or a sadness or a frustration. And so then it's also we start to build a little bit of capacity to feel those things.
Hmm.
But then we kind of come right back to this thing that feels really good. So it's not just getting stuck in talking about or feeling
Yeah.
the traumatic memory, it's creating safety in the body to build capacity for both. And that titration, it's like we're just going to sprinkle in a little bit of discomfort at a time. So we're
Hmm.
not going straight to this place of like, okay, so you got stuck and you really wanted to fight this person and you couldn't. All right, let's fight this person. It's like
Yeah.
we'll ease our way into feeling that anger. So you feel like you can really be with it instead of be flooded by it.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
So
so much sense. And I love that because I feel like so many people are scared of therapy because they're like, oh my God, they're going to make me talk about my trauma over and over, or I don't want to feel all of that.
yeah.
So by letting them know, like it starts in a more positive headspace, you're just helping them connect with their body, it sounds like in general. So better to do it in a
Hmm.
place that's positive and let them get familiar
Hmm.
with the feelings before
Hmm.
then starting to bring up some of the blockages.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. 100%.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
So it
cool.
feels like they have it's cool too because I have a lot of again clients who think so much about their
Hmm.
feelings and then they're once they do it they're like I've had it now happen a couple of times where they're like whoa I didn't realize that I had that ability to just sort of manage my feeling or be able to observe my feeling versus just be so overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
And so it's just this beautiful recognition of like, yeah, like look at that empowerment that can come from tracking your own body experience and being with it.
Hmm.
So many, and then there's this also really cool part of somatic therapy that I, it's also so shocking for clients where your body almost naturally knows how to soothe itself. It's just bringing awareness to it. And
Hmm.
so I often see a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'm just really feeling a lot of this anxiety in my chest. And they'll just naturally put a hand there. And it's like,
Oh.
let's just bring awareness to the fact that you're like
Hmm.
actively offering some support to yourself. Like, oh yeah, I just like have like a headache. I'm like, yeah, notice how you're naturally just sort of putting some support onto your head really
Right.
quick. And so it's this really cool thing to show clients like, hey, like you don't have to rely so heavily on, thinking about something or on other things and other people. Yes, that we all need resources externally that support
Hmm.
us, but there's so much power in your own body. And when you really listen to it, it's so cool to notice how much your body just naturally wants to support itself.
Right. Oh, that's so nice. And that's
Mm.
empowering them, I bet. To be like, hey, like
Yeah.
this, to me, I say it sometimes with like brain spotting because it's a little similar in that you just kind of like let their brain find the spot
Mm.
that's like storing the trauma and then just like sit there and let them stare at
Yeah.
it. Like their brain kind of works through it and does what it, like you said, kind of should have done in the first place.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason couldn't. But it's so funny because I always call it like the Wizard of Oz effect. You know how like
Yeah.
at the end it's like, you've had it all along. Like it's like
Yeah.
you've had the ruby slippers all along. You just like couldn't see because you had flying monkeys and like
Yeah.
witches and like random stuff going on. So it's just kind of cool that it's so similar in that way of like,
Hmm.
oh my God, they're already self-soothing without
Hmm.
even being conscious of it and probably having
Hmm.
beat themselves up over the years for not being
Hmm.
better when there's all these little slight things they were doing to manage it and just didn't acknowledge that. So,
Yep. 100%. I love
like,
that.
cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to steal that line. It
Yeah.
is like it feels like this magic experience where you're just sort of like lifting the veil and
Yeah.
kind of removing some of those protective factors, right? Or just the blurred vision and being like, oh, look, like
Hmm.
you do have that capability to be regulated and
Oh,
supported.
yeah, your magic. So cute.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, why do you think that this modality in particular, I know you've kind of explained it, but I guess like more specifically, like why do you think that
Yeah,
this is helpful for both clients and for therapists to know about?
totally. I've actually noticed just on the therapist end how much it's alleviated some serious burnout.
Mm,
Um, because like you're saying, right, we're really putting the power back into the client's hands,
mhm,
which then makes half of the session just like, yeah, like just notice that, right? And it really puts the therapist into this more like observer guider,
mm,
versus this person who maybe holds all of this like expert power of like, oh yes, I
yeah,
can be the one to change you, and here's my wisdom, and no, think about it like this, right? I think that
mhm,
that can sometimes feel like so much pressure and so much work,
yeah.
as a therapist when there's that pressure to heal. Where I feel like with somatic therapy, it's you're really a collaborator, like a I don't know, that was not a word. You collaborate with the client,
Hmm.
and empower the client. And so yeah, so much of it for me has just been attunement and just sitting there being like, yeah, you got this. And so
Hmm.
that pressure is gone. So I don't, at the end of my days, I'm like, wow, that was so beautiful to just sort of witness people's nervous systems and them healing themselves
Yeah.
versus being in this place of like high intellectual, really like working my brain, on overdrive.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's alleviated a lot of burnout and,
That's awesome.
which is amazing. And then I think for the client, again, it's that you're awakening that 90% of understanding yourself. And so I think for a client to be able to track their own body and then figure out kind of from there, hey, if I can just notice what's happening in my body and be with that, you're way less likely to react. You're way more likely to respond from an aligned, valued place versus that trauma response, right? And that empowerment that comes from being able to name and notice what's going on in your own body versus relying on other people telling you sort of who you are and what you should be doing.
Yeah.
That in itself is just like incredible to be able to be more autonomous and
Hmm.
have more agency, which gets ripped from you when you experience
Yeah.
trauma. So yeah, and I think again, hopefully it also alleviates a little bit of burnout on the client end, right? Like we kind of talked about with the high functioning,
Yeah.
where they are show up so many other ways in life where they're prioritizing other people or working really hard to help other people. And this is like this opportunity to have more agency and more autonomy and more ability to set boundaries.
Hmm.
So I think it's just a brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant modality.
It sounds so cool. And I hope that that's something that continues to grow in like people just become more aware of it being an option, clients and therapists. I hope that more
100%.
programs kind of push towards these types of therapies instead. Like, maybe not instead, but like in congruence with, like, because you can do
Totally.
both. So, but I feel like how you mentioned, if you're only focusing on some of the like more cognitive aspects of it, you aren't addressing like the whole picture. So,
Totally.
and that doesn't feel
Totally.
great for the therapist either to see their clients
Totally.
struggling. So,
Yeah, yeah, because then everybody's feeling stuck, right?
mhm.
And then you're either, I think that sometimes that stuckness can trigger imposter syndrome in the
Oh
therapist,
yeah.
and then that perfectionism in the client where they're like, "Oh, I'm failing therapy. I'm
Mhm.
failing progress. I'm failing healing." If you're already working with perfectionism, like it's just
Right.
you're sort of almost like re-wounding the person.
Mhm.
And so I think again, it helps this confidence in both parties to, you're absolutely right, both are necessary,
Mhm.
but kind of going from the bottom up,
Yeah.
noticing your body and what's happening and bringing awareness to that cognitively can be so much more powerful and confidence building
Mhm.
than noticing something and seeing, thinking about something in your
Right.
head and trying to get that to like come into the body.
Mhm.
Is like a lot harder. So yeah, it decreases that stuck feeling. And I think it is like a breakthrough for therapy. So I do hope more people, I know that there's a lot of exercises out there on social media, like somatic
Mhm.
exercises that, clients can use. And
Oh,
I think that
nice.
yeah, I would look up some, even going to the somatic experiencing website and just looking at the, one-on-one video or one-on-one
Mhm.
video just to sort of get a little bit of an understanding can be a start.
Yeah. Well, for therapists who are interested in this, I know we talked a little bit before we started about kind of what that process is to get trained in
Hmm.
this. So could you
Hmm.
explain that?
Totally. So I'm sure that there's like a bunch of different ways and
Mhm.
organizations that can train you in somatic experiencing. I'm going through the Somatic Experiencing International program. So this specific program is a 3-year experience to become a certified somatic experiencing practitioner. And so that is, you can do it in person or you can do it online. I'm doing it in person in Arizona. So there's beginning one, two, and three, intermediate one, two, and three, and then advanced one and two.
Wow.
And all of those are about 4-day long programs where you're being trained and then you're practicing it in triads.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah. So, and then in the interim between those trainings, you work with different practitioners to sort of do your own personal sessions, which I always love a program that makes the therapist do the actual
Hmm.
intervention. So you're not just like teaching it, you're actually embodying it. You're like, no, I know what it's like to be on the other
Yeah.
side of that chair and how uncomfortable it can be sometimes.
Yep.
So I'm doing that. And then it also does consultations because I think, again, like I said earlier too, like I'm in my student era, so I'm
Yeah.
totally still learning.
Hmm.
And so I think while I'm learning, it's so helpful to have mentors to sort of say,
Hmm.
hey, here's what's going on. Here's what I did. Where did I go wrong? Or also like, how could I make this better?
Right.
So yeah, so it's a 3-year long, it's definitely an investment in your time and your money, but again, like this bottom up approach has just been so transformational. It makes me feel like I can show up to work and not resent it or burn out. I'm being able to hold some more boundaries, so I think it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
And just the people you meet in the community that you get to create by going to these trainings is so powerful, and you
Mhm.
get to learn by some really, really smart people.
That's cool.
And it's so cool because it's not just for therapists,
Hmm.
like body workers, so like physical therapy,
Oh, interesting.
chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncture. I even met somebody who does like sound baths and
Hmm.
equine therapy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you don't have to have the, license in a clinical field to necessarily learn this. So,
Hmm.
and I'm actually getting medical massages right now
Oh,
because
wow.
I have a pinched nerve and I've been talking with my masseuse. And so even last night, I was like telling her about what was going on and she started tracking. She's like, yeah, I'm really noticing that you're like sitting pretty heavily on this side, but then your shoulders coming up. Like, are you trying to block and protect something right now? Like, what's kind of going on for you? And I was like, okay,
Called out.
way to be a yeah, I'm like, way to be a somatic practitioner
Yeah.
right now, tracking my body.
Right. Oh, that's
But
so
it was so
cool.
yeah, and it was so helpful because like just as she's kind of massaging my body, I'm recognizing different things and it's relieving and releasing certain things. And now I'm even noticing that throughout my life I've been standing up straighter and more balanced
Oh,
because
wow.
I'm noticing how much when I'm anxious that I lean on my right side of my body or so
Hmm.
it's been really, really cool to see that it's again not just licensed clinicians, it's pretty much
Yeah.
anybody who's interested in the body can kind of go through this education.
Oh, I can see how that would be super helpful in all of those arenas that you mentioned because and that I mean I think that there's a lot what you mentioned earlier about body language and tone and stuff like that. That's giving away the message before you even open your mouth. So it's cool that so
Yep.
many of them are able to like pick up on that and see that and not just go off of like, oh, so what do you need today? Or where does it hurt? Or what do you want to work on? Like it can be
Totally.
collaborative and they can also give you those observations you might not even be aware of.
Totally. Because I think a lot of people say like, "Oh, I'm fine," or like whatever
Yeah.
you want to do. And but if
Hmm.
I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine," then
Yeah.
somebody could say, "Well, I'm just noticing you're kind of massaging your shoulder. Like, what's going on
Hmm.
there, right?" And so
Exactly.
yeah, sometimes it can feel really jarring. You're like, "I feel a little too seen." Like,
Yeah, please don't. But thank
yeah,
you.
please look away. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh, that is very cool. And then I feel like that's also a great networking opportunity too, to be at these trainings and have so many people that you're kind of like building a community with at that point, especially in person.
Totally. And the holistic side of
Yeah.
care for clients, there's also like a nutritionist and a dietitian there. And
Oh, cool.
so just and I feel like we're both similar just in our beliefs around like it's not just one person that can change this, our clients'
Yeah.
lives. Like you need a team, it takes a
Hmm.
village, right? And so yeah, to be able to network with, I'm like, to my clients, here's this go do take a sound bath, in between therapy, or like talk to this
Right.
dietitian who's like not just gonna feed you a diet, who's gonna actually help you understand your body and what
Hmm.
it's asking you for. And it's really cool to be able to network with different like modalities to be able to
Yeah.
help our clients just find that holistic, like taken
Hmm.
care of, to be able to be wrapped around many
Oh,
people.
that's awesome. Yeah, and then knowing people that are trained in that, or you guys can all speak the same language. That's going to
Yes,
be really nice for referral purposes, but also for the client to start building this vocabulary that is probably pretty foreign to them if they haven't really tuned into their body. So giving them those skills and then
100%.
having people talk to them in the same language is probably really great for that holistic care across the board.
Totally. And truly, like the more I speak the language and know the language, it's been
Yeah.
really cool as I've been posting on my social media,
Hmm.
because the clients that I'm getting are just in so much more alignment with
That's
my,
awesome.
skill set.
Hmm.
And so I feel like the work is even more meaningful. Because I know in other channels that you've had talking about like niching and
Yeah.
how powerful it can be to really find the client that is really in alignment with like who you are and the
Hmm.
importance of that ethic and integrity to refer out when necessary.
Right.
And so it's cool to be able to speak the language of my client,
Hmm.
and both find each other and it's just like magic.
The
So
best.
I love it.
That console call where you're like, oh my God, that's it. Let's work together.
A
Like,
100%. Like
oh,
15 minutes in, I'm like, oh, are we best friends? No, we're not
yes.
because I'm your therapist. But yeah,
But like Loki for this hour, we're here.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, 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 yeah.
oh, I love that. Yeah. And that's so cool because it's like, I think something that, again, isn't really talked about a lot in grad school because I feel like the messages, at least that I got, were very much like, you need to work with whoever. Like, you need to be
Mm.
whoever that person needs. You need to meet the client where they're at. You need to show up for them. And there was like no education or training for me about what I needed as the therapist, what modalities I should do. It was like, here's the list of things. Here's what we're
Yeah,
going to talk to you about, a chapter on CBT, and then we're gonna make you sit in front of the class and practice it, and then you could go sit back down, and now you got it.
yeah.
So just stuff that was, and I get it. It's like it's quick, it's 2 years, it's whatever. But I do feel like there's so much emphasis placed on things that like weren't necessarily going to make you a therapist. It was just like here's more education and training on things that are abstract in a lot of
Mm.
ways. So most of the training, I feel like, which I wish they would have told me this in grad school, happens outside of grad school. Like it happens at the internship. It happens with these like specialty trainings that you seek out, but you have to do the work on yourself to figure out which things match you. I've seen some therapists, and I'm guilty of it too, and I took EMDR because that's what everybody was doing and everybody said it was great. And I liked it and I see the benefits of it, but it didn't really speak to me as a clinician. So there I am, like $2,000 out, like, cool, I know how to do this thing that I actually don't really like to do.
Yeah.
So No thanks.
Mm.
But I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people do that. And so it's cool that you really tuned into you, worked on
Yeah.
your healing, how you best work, like kind of
Mhm.
finding what speaks to you, and then sought out the trainings and the treatments that would help. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100, like, because I first started doing it in IFS, and that's
Hmm.
truly because the therapist that I found when I was living in North Carolina
Hmm.
was an IFS therapist. And I
Hmm.
was like, I don't know what this is, but I like this vibe. Let's
Yeah.
go with it. And then as I was doing IFS, I was like noticing how much of that somatic work was so important to me. Just noticing my own body with IFS, there's a lot of somatic work in that.
Mm.
Um, and so then, yeah, it led me to somatic practicing. But I was so guilty of like, oh, should I be doing EMDR because everyone
Right?
does it? Like, should I just like really know the structure of CBT and
Hmm.
adhere to every homework assignment given? And
Right.
it would all of those shoulds, right? That intellect, that like kind of like what is this supposed to look like? But you're so
Hmm.
right. I feel like once I was like grad school, honestly, to me was a lesson in endurance,
For sure.
less than the content. I was just like, oh wow, what does actually sitting down and like studying feel like?
Hmm.
Not so much actually getting any content from it. It was just let's get this
Oh.
piece of paper and then really get into the
Right.
nitty gritty.
Yeah, why do I need two
So I
research
totally get
classes? I'm not getting a PhD. Like,
it.
I already took
Exactly.
research in undergrad. Leave me alone. Like, you could have then had me do more stuff that was like this, that was actually worthwhile, but whatever.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's like a piece of advice I would also give to therapists is like instead of going and looking at the data online and looking at what
Yeah.
everybody else is doing, like you can get inspiration. And
Mhm.
sometimes some because I used to always say like, oh, I don't know. I still don't really understand, but my body, again, the mental, but my body has resisted EMDR. Like
Yeah.
anytime someone is like, why don't you try this? My body actively is like, no, thank you. I
Hmm.
don't know why. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to go down that path of trying to make meaning. I'm just going to listen to the resistance
Yeah.
within my body and go with that. So
Hmm.
sometimes to me, that was an inspiration to look elsewhere. But it wasn't until I was like, oh, everybody's doing EMDR. You're right. It wasn't until I did some research that I then though listened to my body to be like, maybe that isn't it.
Hmm.
And then I found some other people who were doing other things, and I was like, ah, yeah, and like leaned towards it.
Yep.
So, I think do your research, but try not to get caught up in well, everybody else is doing this thing, so I should be doing it
Hmm.
too. It's more like look at it,
Yeah.
notice what's do the somatic work of like notice what's happening in your body. Are you being drawn to it? Are you angry about it? Are you resistant? And just
Hmm.
notice that and maybe see what happens if you sort of observe what's going on in your body. Because I think that can kind of lead you towards the path that you're really meant to go down versus what you
Yeah.
feel like you have to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like, working with the military, I would have to send clients to do EMDR and come back, and they would be great. I mean, they would,
Yeah.
a lot of symptoms would go down, stuff like that. And I liked aspects of it, but not the whole thing. So then after I was like,
Yeah.
cool, got the books, got the knowledge, got
Yeah.
the tappers, but like, I don't want to use it. I don't love that. And then for me, brain spotting, because I was like, that's similar, like similar theories of like
Yeah.
psychosomatic, right? Like your body and this and that, but it's just kind of more fluid. And that's what I
Yeah.
needed as a therapist. I didn't want to
Yeah.
do all of these phases and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I
Totally.
get a wand, I'm down. Brain spotting,
Yeah.
should have known. Like, I
Yeah.
wish people
Yeah.
talked to me about it before. But that's why,
Yeah.
like, highlighting trainings like this, where it's stuff that people aren't as familiar with, it's not as
Yeah.
like trendy kind of yet. Like some of
Yeah.
the other things can seem trendy. Um,
Yeah.
even though they're legit, it's just like I've noticed waves over the years in the therapist community of like, this is the thing everyone's doing. Now, this is the
Hmm.
thing everyone's doing.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
love that you found something that really spoke to you, and now your work and your life are better because of it.
Totally. And yeah, totally not a hater of EMDR. I just
No,
want to put that
no.
out there.
Yeah, it's just
It
not for
works.
us.
Exactly. I think that, and I don't want to speak for you, but what I do
Yeah,
know, it's like, yeah,
go
it's
for it.
that fluidity and that like
Hmm.
ability to kind of, yeah, not have that structured experience can feel very freeing.
Yeah,
And so I totally get that. But again, like, yeah, we don't really know that unless we really tune into what we want. It's like
exactly.
EMDR can really work for clients and
Hmm.
practitioners.
Right.
And also it can feel maybe a little bit too structured and too rigid for others. And that's
Hmm.
totally okay.
Yeah.
There's so many things that people are so different, and there's so many different things that we need. And so yeah, I love that to be able to sort of name and notice different modalities that are out there just because they might
Mhm.
not be on trend. Um, doesn't mean that they aren't quality pieces of work.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, before we go, is there any other advice or any other suggestions that you would give to new therapists out here? I know everyone's about to graduate, so if there's any kind of tips or tricks or lessons you learned along
Oh, um, that's a good question. I think one, just like somatic practicing, starts with what feels good,
the way.
especially if you're just graduating. Like before you start freaking out about, oh my God, where am I going to get a job? What is it going to be in? Who do I'm going to work with? What path? Notice how good it feels that you just graduated
Yeah.
and you just accomplished this thing that is so hard. Like I just said, for me, it was like this test of endurance, and like
Hmm.
it was, I mean, 6 years, right? If we're looking at both undergrad and grad,
Right.
of just like a majority of it being uncomfortable. And so I think what I would really urge is give your body a break and take a vacation and enjoy some time off and like really embody what it feels like to feel that empowerment and power of graduating and doing this really hard thing
Hmm.
before you jump right into the really other new uncomfortable things. And two, like be a curious observer. So if you're going into whatever next step, if that's, hospital, prison, private practice, group practice, whatever
Hmm.
community, um, observe it. That doesn't have to be your forever home. So just notice when you're with clients, like notice what feels good and what doesn't feel good. Take information in from mentors and supervisors. But again, like check in on how that feels to hear it
Hmm.
versus just taking it as truth. And talk to so many different people. Like
Yeah.
just talk to people who aren't in your direct line of work. Talk
Hmm.
to if you're in a large organization, like talk to everybody and all the different people and what they're doing. That's different. So
Yep.
you can really know what's out there. And again, know what's going to fit for you and just try it all on.
Hmm.
You're not going to be like, don't put the pressure on yourself to be the perfect therapist. Just like try everything on and trust that your clients are going to be okay. Like,
Yeah.
your clients were surviving without you. They'll be just fine if like not every session is a slam dunk.
Mhm.
You're both learning something new together.
Right.
So just be in that like curious practice place if you can. And own it. Own that you're still a student. Even though you graduated, like I'm still a student.
Hmm.
Like that's the beauty of this field is that we're forced to continuously educate ourselves on things. So we're
Right.
always going to be a student, and what a
Yeah.
beautiful thing to be able to exist as a student in life instead of this like pressure of being this perfect expert. Like
Hmm.
stuff and you're still learning.
Yeah.
So the balance.
I love that. And that's why I have people like you on, because I'm like, I don't know about somatic
Yeah.
experience. Tell me about it. Teach me about it. And then it's really to teach other people, but low key is for me to understand more about it. So, I think we need to be open because I don't want to
Mhm.
see a doctor or like even, I don't know, any kind of professional and have them be a know-it-all. Nobody knows it
Oh my
all.
God.
So I think it's the
Mhm.
same for us, but for some reason we put the pressure on ourselves to know it all and have all the answers. So I love that you were like,
Mhm.
be curious, you're learning, and how you said not every
Yeah.
session's a slam dunk. I wish somebody had said that
Yeah.
in grad school, in internships, wherever, to be like, sometimes it's like
Yeah.
filler episodes of a TV show.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
we're building up to the stuff that's coming later, but we're not there yet. So we're going to talk
Yeah.
about these other random aspects of your life or get to know you, or you have event session or whatever, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And truly like to combine the two of like somatic therapy and just like therapy in general,
Yeah.
like somatic therapy is about that slow dosing of noticing and
Mhm.
experiencing. And so you almost don't want every session to be this like big emotional discharge because that could be so overwhelming for you and your client. So
Mhm.
those like filler episodes are like truly some of the best things that you can do
Yeah.
because you're really helping your clients slowly embrace discomfort versus just like jumping right into the deep end. So
Hmm.
don't do that to yourself too, right? Like just go
Yeah.
slow. Oh, go as slow as possible and like enjoy the journey and
Hmm.
talk to people like you too, who like have been there, done that. And I feel
Yeah.
like you just even talking with you in the process of opening up my own practice,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
you weren't like, hey, I know it all. You're like, here's what I know.
Right.
And you still have the autonomy to make whatever choice you want, but
Hmm.
I have tools. And if you want
Yeah.
them, here they are.
Support. Yeah. And our practices look so different. Like colors, themes, who we see,
Mhm.
whatever. There's some overlap,
Mhm.
but I think it's just, yeah, it's like take this and run with it. Go do you.
Yeah. 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 And I think that that's, again, that's, it's hard to receive information if you feel like you have to know it all. And
Hmm.
so then you're kind of like really putting yourself at a disadvantage. And I
Yeah.
remember when I was talking to you about opening up my own practice, I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, and that's okay. That doesn't make me a bad person or a
Hmm.
dumb person. It just
Yeah.
is the reality of the situation is that I've never done this thing that you've done.
Hmm.
Help me out.
Yeah.
Right. And that's cool to also be in this place too of like, you're like, yeah, I don't know what somatic therapy. That doesn't make
Right.
you anything other than a person who just doesn't know
Doesn't
what
know
somatic
about it.
therapy is.
Yeah. And it's cool. I think it helps our clients too for us to be like their jobs. Oh my gosh. Like I heard about construction for 40 minutes yesterday
Mm-hmm.
because that's what one of my clients was going through. And I was like, oh, I don't know that much about that. Like, and I
Yeah.
need to know a little more of the context to understand why this part's stressful. Yeah, explain that to me. And
Yep.
just ask it. With the military, oh my God, I was like, I literally don't know any of these acronyms.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'll look for context clues, but other
Yep.
ones, I'm like, can you give me a little background on what that is? And that's okay. We're
Yep.
more human that way, and I feel like we're more relatable that way. So
Yeah,
it's fun.
absolutely. Yeah. And curiosity, again, like it's not just about understanding your client, but it's
Hmm.
also giving space for them to get curious about their own experience as well.
Right.
So I think that that's just like, it's literally just, yeah, you notice what's coming up for you.
Hmm.
And I don't know what that means. It's okay if you don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Like we can just be here with that experience, and just sort of see what happens next. And I think
Hmm.
that that is like chef's kiss, like
Yeah.
just allowing whatever to come into the room and be like, huh, I don't know what it is, but let's take a look at it.
Hmm.
That like that is
That's cool.
so powerful. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but it's so powerful.
Hmm. Yeah. And
I
that's where
love
like
it.
silence comes into play a
Yes.
lot, which I think can make a
Yeah.
lot of new therapists especially uncomfortable because it's like, oh, I'm in charge. I'm supposed to fill the space. And I think you're right. And taking some of that silence, it might even be what the client probably is what they need in those moments to tune into themselves. But on your end, to be confident enough to be comfortable with those moments where you're not actively doing anything except holding a space, and that's enough.
Yep. I always sort of sometimes remind myself that when I'm saying, like, if someone's like, yeah, my chest is tight, right? And I'm like, cool, just notice that for a moment and let's
Mhm.
just sort of see what happens.
Right.
I feel like it's they're reading a book and I'm on the outside just like patiently waiting for them to tell me what they just read.
That's cool. Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
so people read at all these different speeds. And
Hmm.
so a lot of times I'm just like, yeah, read that page and I'll be here. And whenever you're ready to tell me what's there,
Hmm.
I'm so ready to receive it. And then we'll kind of, whatever the page says, like whatever it needs to come next, we'll know more information once you're able to take your time in reading.
That's
But if I'm like, no, this is what the page says, and also you need to read a lot faster because it's making me uncomfortable,
yeah.
we're screwed. We're gonna be so screwed.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's not gonna work, but I love that.
No.
Like just letting that pace be slower at times, and that's okay. That's
Yeah,
actually better for a lot of people. So,
absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
cool. Well, I feel like I've learned a lot about this. Now I want to go watch like more things on it and go to that website. I'll put the website
Yeah.
too below that you mentioned for the
Yeah.
trainings that you're doing so people can
Yeah.
look into it. But yeah,
Perfect.
I really appreciate you being here today and talking to us about
Yeah.
it, teaching me something.
Yeah. I so appreciate you having me on. And obviously, like I love talking about this kind of stuff. So anytime.
Love it. Well, hopefully everybody follow Courtney. The links are below. She just did a beautiful rebranding, photo shoot, aesthetics, everything's great. So go follow her Instagram, check out her website, and subscribe so you can see all the rest of the episodes. But thank you
Yeah.
again for being here, Courtney.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you guys. Subscribe below, and I will see you next time. Bye.